Welcome back to Unlimited Recaps. Today we'll be diving into a comedy romance film from 2008 titled Zack and Miri Make a Porno. In the movie's beginning, a girl named Miri wakes up and goes to wake her roommate Zack as they are running late to leave for their village. Zack and Miri have been friends since first grade and are the greatest of friends. Each of them leaves for work. Zack travels to the coffee shop where he works, where he meets Danny, another man. After being told to report for work on Black Friday, Danny becomes irate and fights with his employer. Zack makes jokes about cameras being installed in the shop soon to record all of Danny's antics. Zack confides in his friend Danny about his love for Miri when they get together to talk after work. He acknowledges that he has grown romantically interested in her, but hasn't had the guts to tell her. His reluctance is rooted in his concern that sharing his feelings could strain their tight friendship, especially because they share a room. Zack cherishes their relationship and living arrangement, but is apprehensive about Miri's possible reaction. Zack tells Miri that he and she will be attending their high school reunion later that evening as they converse. Two girls try to videotape Miri without her permission while she is getting ready for the reunion and changing into her clothes at a coffee shop. Just in time, Zack intervenes to protect Miri from the camera and sternly orders the females to stop. Despite hiding his emotions, his protective action shows how much he cares for Miri. Miri shows Zack the outfit she picked out for the reunion and asks him what he thinks of her appearance. Zack lightens the occasion with his typical humor, joking that her attire makes her look like a McDonald's employee instead of delivering her a plain compliment. Even though Zack and Miri joke around a lot, when they return to their apartment, they are both having financial difficulties. Because of this, their water supply has been cut off, which serves as a continual reminder of the difficulties they share. They are going to their high school reunion later that night. Zack is having a good time at the gathering. He is flirting lightheartedly with a few different women, but he uses his marriage as an excuse to keep things light. He does this to keep things lighthearted and to prevent becoming too attached. Zack, on the other hand, doesn't appear overly bothered when Miri initiates a flirting chat with Bobby. Even though he knows, he tries to hide his jealousy by being nonchalant. Zack is seated next to a woman at the reunion who is furious because her husband is out flirting with other ladies. Zack quips that he'd want to make a film with her in an effort to cheer her up and lighten the situation. And the two of them go to a private room. When they are by themselves, though, Zack suddenly finds that he is uncomfortable and decides not to proceed, feeling uncomfortable and guilty about his earlier, lighthearted suggestion. When Miri runs into Brandon at the reunion, he's taken aback to learn that her video became popular on an adult website. Over 200,000 people have watched the covertly filmed movie that several females made. Miri is photographed by Brandon, who remarks that she's now a famous person. When Zack and Miri go home later, their electricity is turned off because their bills aren't paid. Miri is hesitant, but Zack suggests they make sexual videos in order to get money. Zack says they can become wealthy in an attempt to persuade her. Miri reluctantly nods in agreement. Casting was done for the movie, which was a parody of Star Wars. After preparing everything, Zack and his small film crew started shooting in a rented building they had converted into a makeshift studio. As they eventually got their movie idea off the ground, spirits were high, but just as everything was about to come together, catastrophe struck. All of Zack's equipment was taken with the new owners when the building was abruptly sold. Everything they needed to carry out their work was gone, including lights, cameras, and props. The crew felt crushed. They had received advance payments for the film from financiers and clients, but they had nothing to show for it at this point. They had the impression of having the rug ripped out from under them. Desperate to turn things around, Zack recalled that his employer at the coffee shop he worked for had once told him about a concealed camera that was rarely utilized. Zack had little choice but to go to the coffee shop, where he discovered the concealed camera and persuaded the crew to move their filming location there. Although it wasn't ideal, they had no other choice because they couldn't afford to give up. They began recording after business hours, after the store had closed. Everything was going great until one of their shoots ended abruptly with a customer walking in, which made them have to hurriedly finish up for the evening. The filming continued despite the delay, and before long, Zack and Miri's private session was scheduled to be filmed. For Zack, this was no typical scene he was involved because he harbored romantic sentiments for Miri that he had long suppressed. As the situation got closer, Zack and Miri were both clearly anxious. There was a lot of tension in the air. Before the cameras began to roll, Zack tried to calm her and lessen her pain by saying a few encouraging words. The uneasiness persisted on both sides despite his best attempts, giving the situation an unnatural and stilted sense. Zack sensed his dissatisfaction mounting as their on-screen chemistry, which was typically great off-screen, didn't transition well into the performance. Throughout the scene, he had hoped for a more organic connection, but he refrained from voicing his displeasure. In an effort to diffuse their tension, Zack and Miri tried to talk things out after the shooting. Despite their mutual understanding of the scene's significance for the film and their careers, their anxiety had put up an imperceptible wall. Though she wasn't quite aware of it at the time, Miri had begun to feel something for Zack as well, unbeknownst to him. This made their encounters much more difficult because neither of them knew how to deal with their feelings. When they got home later that evening, they were met with an unpleasant surprise. The water was flowing and their electricity had come back on. They had been dealing with overdue bills for weeks, and the stress of it had been getting to them. They were stunned and unsure of who had saved them at this point. When the remaining members of their film crew and a few actors arrived at their door grinning, their comfort quickly turned to appreciation. The team admitted that they had helped with the bill payment. Shocked, Zack questioned how they'd done it given that none of them had much money to spare. Danny smiled sheepishly and said he had borrowed money from his grandmother to help with some of the costs. In the interim, Stacy, an actress, leveraged her connections at the water and energy provider to expeditiously restore their services. The gesture moved Zack and Miri to tears. It served as a reminder that, in spite of their difficulties, they were surrounded by supportive individuals who were ready to lend a hand however they could. After inviting everyone inside, they all start dancing and having a good time. Zack eventually nods off while the other crew members continue to play games. Miri converses with Stacy in the interim, and she confides in her that she is anxious to film a scene with Zack the following day. Miri is asked by Stacy if she would mind practicing with Zack. Even though Miri feels awkward, she masks her emotions and claims she doesn't mind. Afterwards, Stacy walks up to Zack, whispers something in his ear, and the two of them enter a room. Miri notices this and is offended, but she stays silent. Everyone gets ready for the shoot the following evening. Zack makes the decision not to film their part together because he still thinks Miri has affection for him. He claims Miri is too scared and won't want to film with him, but Miri appears and says she's prepared to film the sequence with him. Before the camera starts rolling, Zack draws Miri aside to inquire about his actions. Zack presses Miri, questioning her about her behavior, even if she denies it. In response, she says that she's only acting, just like he is. Miri doesn't trust Zack when he assures her that nothing happened between him and Stacy the previous night. Zack finally admits that he has feelings for her after they dispute. He leaves abruptly, shocking Miri. Danny tries to stop Zack as he exits the studio, but Zack continues on his own. Then, 3 months later, is shown in the scene. Zack is employed at a circus where he makes money by being the target of objects thrown at him. This is the job he had to accept in order to make ends meet after quitting the coffee business. Danny tracks him down and attempts to persuade him to return so they can complete the film. Danny informs Zack that Miri hasn't been the same since he left and that no fresh sequences have been filmed when he refuses. He says that Zack and Miri were the reason behind everything they did. After learning about this, Zack visits Miri. He discovers her in her room and informs her that he never felt anything for Stacy and that nothing personal ever transpired between them when he is standing outside her restroom. Lister, another gentleman, exits the restroom as Zack is confessing his love, leading Zack to believe Miri and Lister are romantically involved. Zack tries to mask his pain by insisting that he still loves Miri, and it doesn't matter if she is with Lister. Lister makes it clear that there is no animosity between them and that Miri was the reason he moved in with her in the first place. She couldn't pay the rent. Zack and Miri embrace after realizing the truth and admitting their genuine affections for one another. As the film comes to a happy ending, it becomes clear that their crew made a lot of money by successfully finishing the film. The movie ends on a hopeful note regarding their accomplishments. Please give the article a like and a comment if you liked it. Make sure to hit the channel subscribe button since I post a lot of movie recaps.